Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. Sportsball Talk Show every week.
We're back.
All week. We're back. Gion's here, as always.
How's it going?
We'll get into it. We're going to go over some recent NFL news, as always, to start off. So, first off, Cam Jordan with the Saints. Extended 2-year deal, $27.5 million. I like it. Cam Jordan's been a staple of the Saints defense for a long time now.
Very solid player.
I think it's a contract that's right in that middle ground of too much and not enough for a player as good as him, where they can still afford to spend money on other people and take care of some of that dead cap that they're going to have for the next 45 years because they're stupid. So I think that just kind of helps the Saints out. I figured he was going to stay there. I don't think any of us expect Cam Jordan to leave the Saints, but always it's a possibility when you're not getting extended and getting the contract you want. Another defensive signing, the Bears signed Yannick Ngakoue to a 1-year, $10.5 million deal. It just helps. I mean, they signed Roquan Smith last year, which is obviously massive. Yannick Ngakoue just kind of helps it out a little bit. The Bears are cooking up something nasty. I mean, I think we'll discuss the Bears probably next week with the NFC North, but I think it's going to be more competitive division than people are giving it at the moment just because.
Right. The Bears are looking like they're building something together to go full steam ahead. Because there's a lot of expectations that they're still going to be better than last year, but they're still going to be pushovers. I think they're working their way to not be pushovers in that division.
Well, here's the other thing that I want to mention, and this is one thing that I always dump on Cam Newton for, but I have to give credit where credit is due. He won MVP,
right?
And it was one of the best MVP seasons we've seen. The problem with Justin Fields is that he's a bad passer, and the most obvious stat to look at is the completion percentage. What was his completion percentage? Like mid to high 50s last year?
Something like that. It wasn't. I don't
Cam Newton's completion percentage the year he won MVP was 58%. If you can believe it.
Right. The
reason Cam Newton won MVP was because of his rushing ability. Not to say that Justin Fields is going to win MVP, because I don't think there's a single chance. I would bet $1,000 for a $1 return that just maybe not that steep, but I would bet a lot of money that he doesn't win MVP this year just because of the talent elsewhere.
Right.
60.
60% was his completion percentage.
Yeah, so
still not the best.
I mean, I wouldn't say that's good.
You also have to consider how many times he threw. He didn't throw as often as
my point with that is, although he's not a great thrower, the Panthers went 15-1 that season, went to the Super Bowl and just choked, which that's a whole other thing. But my point is, simply having a low completion percentage doesn't automatically make you a bad QB. And Justin Fields having the added talent at the receiver position with DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, Cole Kmet getting re-signed, and he has another year to build that chemistry. Backfield, we'll see what it looks like with Khalil Herbert. Obviously, a good receiving back. We'll see if he can get on the ground. I think he will, combine with the Justin Fields' ability. Usually, when you have a mobile quarterback, the running backs tend to do better because you have two runners that can take the ball, so you don't know who to focus on. Same reason that running back by committees work, and whenever a running back one goes down or RB2 steps in, does really well, like Khalil Herbert did last year when Monty got hurt. Right. Khalil Herbert came in, monster game. So we'll see, but I think that really helps the Bears. Signing Yannick Ngakoue, just bolstering that defense just a little bit more, so they can hold a few less points per game that's getting scored on them. They can kind of just focus in on the offense and making the improvement there, because Yannick Ngakoue is a guy who's played long enough that he doesn't really need to be taught how to play the game, just transferring the scheme. So we'll see.
Worthwhile investment.
Yeah, I think it was for $10 million for 1 year. I mean, see how it works and sign him more afterwards if you think he's worth it. Alvin Kamara has officially gotten his suspension, which everyone knew it was coming. Everyone knew he was going to be suspended. It was just a matter of how many games. Crazy. He only got suspended for 3 games. Everyone was expecting 6, was about the median people were expecting, but people were thinking it could go upwards of 8 to 10. A 3-game suspension is not going to hurt the Saints this season, really at all, because they've got guys like Jamal Williams, who proves last year he's still got room in the tank. And then they have that rookie running back. His name is blanking on me, but you know who I'm talking about, who has been playing very well in training camp. And then you got Kamara, who's going to come back after just 3 games. I mean, especially in a weak division like that, plenty of opportunity for the Saints to still come back, especially with the re-signing of Cam Jordan. I think the Saints are going to be, a pretty good team next year as well. Once again, we'll talk about them. We'll do the NFC North and South next week, because I think there's going to be 2 better divisions to talk about, and it'll be fun. But yeah, I mean, good for Alvin Kamara. That kind of just increases his draft capital for fantasy as well, which we'll get into fantasy stuff later. But good for him, I guess. I mean, he beat someone up. I don't really know what the typical suspension is for stuff like that. I mean, hey, who knows? But maybe he'll take some of that aggression on the field.
He settled it. I don't think he even litigated the cases. I beat him up.
Yeah, I mean, when you're that high profile, you just want to pay the fine and move on.
Right.
I mean, the money's nothing to him for an assault and battery charge. Not that assault and battery is okay, obviously, but the fine for that for a guy like Alvin Kamara is not really that huge of a deal. But that's all for some recent NFL news. We'll get into some training camp news, because that's very important this time of year.
Oh, yeah.
So a few good ones, a few that I'm going to be happy about, and a few that Gion's going to be happy about.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Why don't you tell us about the Dolphins running back?
All right, so Devin Akane, he's looking like an absolute baller out there at the Miami training camp, and I'm very happy about that. Yeah, he's a little shorter, a little smaller on the running back side of things, very speedy. I'd argue very good draft pick on us because like we have Raheem Mostert. Mostert's getting on the older end of things. Jeff Wilson's gotten banged up a couple times. Having that good rookie running back in rotation, I'd argue he's better than Salvon Ahmed and who else? Myles Gaskin. I think it's a nice little add to the mix. You know how Mike McDaniel likes to use Kyle Shanahan's system. I mean, he's a disciple of his, and using that motion, that running back rotation, I think Devin Akane is going to be a great, or A-Chain, sorry if I'm butchering that, is going to be a great addition to the team, especially for the running back core. That's something that I felt like the Dolphins really needed to bolster. I was looking at the rosters of all the teams last night. Me and Ethan were going over a bunch of the rosters just to see like how each team stacks running back wise. Honestly, with regard to like talent or level of big name levels of players for running back position, I felt like the Dolphins were the weakest, and the division doesn't help either, considering how defensive it is. Adding him to the roster and seeing that he's blowing up training camp, I'm very happy about that. Great pick by the Dolphins front office. I'm very happy about his progress, and I want to see him ball out this season.
Yeah,
probably not worth a fantasy pick because so much depth there, but
just because it's a running back by committee. I mean,
Right.
even with Raheem Mostert getting old and Jeff Wilson being wishy-washy, he had some great games last year.
Oh
had some
yeah,
bad
that's not to
games.
take away from them.
But I've said it 100 times, and I'll probably say it every week we ever record for the next 500 years. Running back by committee is my go-to when it comes to that type of thing. If you want to hear why I'm not going to waste 20 more minutes, watch last week's video. I talked about it and explained why I believe that's the right case. Gian agrees for the most part.
Yeah, it adds so much variability.
Unless you have a guy like Derrick Henry who's going to rush for 2,000 yards, get running back by committee because you save money and all that other stuff. But he's been very explosive, which I think fits the Mike McDaniel scheme. Because your receiver group is obviously the highlight of that offense. You got Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. Running on opposite sides of the field, you're going to gas any defenders. But having the explosiveness now in the backfield is really going to improve that offense. I don't know where he's going to rank in the depth chart. I don't know if he's going to be RB1, 2, or 3.
He's either right now on the depth chart.
But I think he's going to. I think he'll probably move up.
Probably shoot up a little bit.
Right. But regardless, because it's by committee and because they do the running back, because they like to pass around who gets the ball between Mostert and Wilson and hopefully now Akane, however it's pronounced. I think he's going to be very good. I think it'll be a thing where Jeff Wilson takes the first couple of downs, like 1, 2, on first and 10s, because Jeff Wilson's just a bigger body. He's good at getting a few yards, 3, 4 yards if you need it on first down to just see what you can do. Raheem Mostert's good at those kind of weird trick plays almost where you kind of throw it to the outside and run down the sideline. That's kind of what he does best. He's not good at just running it up the middle. And now you got Devin who can do kind of either or. We'll see. If he sees a hole in the middle, he's going to fucking explode and drive straight through it and get yourself 10, 15 yards. Also, he's quick.
Oh, yeah.
So if you see the offensive line, the defensive line moving this way, and he's quick enough to get around them, he's going to take it up the sideline and get yourself a decent game, probably secure yourself a first down. And like I said, because it's by committee, you don't know who you need to look at, Jeff Wilson or Raheem Mostert, Devin A-Chain. So I think that's really big for them. Another one has been Jordan Addison, wide receivers Viking. We kind of expected this out of him, but obviously expectations and reality are different oftentimes with rookies. But he's going to fill that wide receiver 2 role, I think, very well, the gap that Adam Thielen is leaving, especially with guys like Hawkinson already there. You got KJ Osborne.
Jay Jettas, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not even going to mention JJ.
Undisputed best receiver right now.
Everyone knows where Jay Jetta stands, but now you've got guys like KJ, you've got Devin, or you got Jordan Addison, and you got TJ Hawkinson, who now you can spread the wealth around. You're not if they double up on Jay Jetta, which you're probably going to every single game, every single play that they're not running, zone coverage. You got a slew of good receivers, not just one more. You've got 3 or 4 guys who are some of the best in terms of contested catching, getting space between them and the defense to catch the ball. So the Vikings pass offense is not gonna take a step back at all this year, I think, because KJ Osborne's been doing very well, and then Jordan Addison taking a major leap during training camp from his college years to now. He's showing that he can do it against the NFL defenses. So we'll see, but I think that's really huge for them. Moving on to the Giants, we have 2 actually, and I'm very, very happy about this. The biggest complaint that every Giants fan has had the last few years is that the wide receiver group is the worst of all time, and it's true. But now, rookie Jalen Hyatt that they drafted is doing very, very well. He's been very explosive, good at getting separation. Once again, that's very important when you're running things like man coverage, getting that separation so you can secure the ball. Daniel Jones has been throwing very accurately, nice over the shoulders, out of reach of the defense, in reach of Jalen Hyatt. So he's doing very well. And Darren Waller, who obviously we know he's one of the best tight ends in the league when he's playing. He was injured last year, but even when he played last year, I picked him up off waivers in like week 14 or 15. He got like 25 points first week back because Darren Waller is him.
Yeah.
He has been meshing very well with the Giants, which when it comes to veterans moving teams, what you don't need to see is are they good, because you know guys like that are good. You need to see if they mesh with the offense. And Darren Waller has been meshing with the offense. He's been picking up the scheme very quickly. So now you got a couple of guys over there that are going to be able to catch the ball. Obviously, you still got Saquon who can catch and run very well. That's the focal point of that piece. Daniel Jones, obviously a very good mobile QB. Whether you hate him or love him, people think he got paid too much, whatever. His passing is accurate. He's not going to pass for 500 yards a game, but he's very good with his legs. And so you've got a very dynamic backfield, obviously, with those two. And now you're kind of building some depth of that wide receiver room and that reception core that you're not just a one-trick pony. Obviously, the defense is what the highlight of that team was overall, besides Saquon, which is just controlling games, which is why we said it last season. It's going to be the same deal this year. They're really good at controlling the game in terms of clock and time management.
Yeah.
But now that they have some explosiveness in that reception room, who knows what their ceiling is, especially if a couple of these other guys start developing, which there's a couple guys on that team that aren't bad, but they're just nothing to write home about. But now
Sterling Shepard is still solid. I mean,
exactly, and now that you have a couple guys that are showing up a little bit, that leaves more room for guys like Sterling Shepard to grow as well. Because once they pave the way of Jalen Hyatt and Darren Waller, that just leaves an easier path for the rest of them.
Oh yeah.
And finally, coming out of training camp, Romeo Dubes, wide receiver, Green Bay. Jordan Love, it's going to depend a lot on him and how he stacks up to NFL defenses, but I think most people kind of have decent expectations for him. They don't think he's going to be a complete bust.
For Jordan Love.
And obviously you got Christian Watson taking over that wide receiver one role, as obvious by last year. His few games that he played really well were crazy. But Romeo Dubes has been playing very well. He was drafted a year ago and didn't do a ton last year just because they had other guys like Alan Lazard. The scheme was bad. Aaron Rodgers wasn't playing his best. A lot of problems with that Packers offense. But now that they have a very linear focus, I think, Romeo Dubes, I think, is going to be a really good pickup for that offense. So Romeo Dubes has been doing good. I think he'll
definitely step it up this year compared to last year, because there was very high expectations for Romeo Doubs, especially with Aaron Rodgers just being able to air it out. That didn't really mesh well. Christian Watson stepped up. But I think this year, now that after understanding the scheme a little bit more, being able to train with a younger quarterback and whatnot, and I think Jordan Love's a little bit more not a little bit. He's definitely more mobile than Aaron Rodgers. It's going to mesh a lot better. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. High expectations for Jordan Love. I think expect 50-yard tutties from Romeo Doubs every now and then. That's what I'm.
I do too.
That's what I'm expecting.
He's a good deep threat, and then because Christian Watson is now the wide receiver one, and he's going to have the focus. I don't think he's going to be bad, but he's definitely going to take a little bit of a step back. He's not going to have those like 200-yard games with 3 touchdowns. But you got guys like Romeo Dubes there too now, and so like now you don't know who to focus on, especially if he shows up during the season like he is currently in training camp. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Packers are this year. I think that's going to be one of the more fun teams to watch because they lost so much this offseason. Like Aaron Rodgers, Alan Lazard, coaching staff changed up a little bit, so we'll see. But he's been very good, so look out for him.
Oh yeah.